Hello there, welcome back to Creative Matthew. It's been a while, partly because I only have like just a few viewers. I'm like, I don't know if people want to see this, if they care, but I'll keep trying. Anyway, let's just get started. So, again, doing charcoal. I've done a bunch of watercolor. If you look up Creative Matthew, well, no, Creative Matthew is my YouTube thing. Look up, I don't know, I have to figure out a shorter way to do this, but I have a Facebook page that has my artwork on it. Creative Matters Writer and Song. N meaning an N. So Creative Matter Writer and then the letter N Songs. If you want to look that up. I think I should have a link to it somewhere, but anyway. So that has all the watercolors I've done recently. So let's get started. And again, you'll see. In this case, the hard part is trying to make sure I want specifically to get much of the body into this, as that's part of the fill for this one, rather than just doing a straight kind of portrait. Yeah. That needs to be further in. And yes, professionals are race. Though I'm not sure if I call myself a professional. That's the goal, is to be a professional in the sense that getting hired by a company. See. I want that more roundish. This is just supposed to be cutesy. Still not round enough. So how's everybody's day? Oh, can you see that? And if you can't, I might just have to script this video, but that's as far zoomed in as the camera can go. Anyway, so how's everybody doing? How was your Christmas break? And it's now the new year, it's 2024. Comparing where the ear starts compared to the eye. On both sides. Can't see my reference, but I'm trying to. I did this once before and it didn't turn out quite how I wanted. Then again, that was also a little bit ago. One thing about art, as you more you do it, the better you get at getting things to look right. To seeing, just like big part of it is just seeing when something's off and be able to figure it out. A little trick that a lot of some artists use is to, if they're doing traditional, is to use a mirror. Because you get used to seeing it one direction, and so even if something's off, you start to get it to where you don't notice it. But if you flip it and do something completely different, then you start to notice that, hey, something doesn't look quite right. And that paw seems kind of small for the head. It is kind of small for the head. Let's not do it too. It's a little trick for here. Don't erase it too much. That way you can still see your underdrawing. If it's just needing to be bigger, then use that to your advantage and do that. It doesn't look as cute as the smaller one though. Still. It looks a little too off. It's a little too, sometimes you have to ignore what's actually a reality if you want to emphasize something or to try to make it more cutesy. Like the eyes, you might make them even bigger than that in order to give them a really cutesy feel. My reference, it doesn't show the whole thing down here. This is me trying to figure it out. I'm not the best at the body anatomy of a cougar or a lion or tiger. I've done a lot of the faces, but not so much the body. So trying to do it like this, I'm just trying to figure it out. Just trying to make, first, I'm not trying to get it accurate. I'm just trying to make it so it actually at least looks decent. Since I'm doing this all in charcoal, even if you still see some line that'll be gone over when I just trying to make it go like that. Reference has it kind of curved down, but I don't like the way it looks like that. That'll be good enough. What time is it? Not time, well, how long has this been? So 9 minutes. You know, so I don't usually do these too long. Especially when I don't know if anybody's even watching or... I have these things, one for white, one for, these are just, technically they're graphite holders, but you can also find charcoal sticks that fit them. I found white charcoal sticks and just the regular charcoal. The white's not really charcoal, it's like a calcium something or another. It's pretty much like a chalk, but they make it feel more like charcoal. There's also colored charcoal, which I suspect is probably not real charcoal, but still, you can get that too. So I know in here there's a lot of white. I told you about these before. They're just a blending stump. It's pretty much just paper wrapped up really tight to look almost like a pencil. You can use that to blend the charcoal or graphite. And I mean, they'll talk about using them in colored pencil, but colored pencils don't blend as easily. I mean, I guess some brands might. I guess it might depend what brand you're using, but for the most part, they don't seem to blend as easily. And then the little trick, if it still feels too small, with charcoal, you can always just do that. Or I simply just add just a little bit more right there. Charcoal is a lot more forgiving than watercolor, but I still like watercolor. I like the challenge of it. Well, the challenge of it when it's a person or something. Landscapes, and there's still the thing that you can't go back. You can't. I mean, you can always go back with gouache, which is an opaque watercolor. But if you're using just plain old watercolor, that's not gouache, and you want to just keep it just plain watercolor, it's transparent, which means that it's not really going to go over a light color. It's not really going to go over a dark color. Now, gouache is an opaque watercolor, and if you really want to know what it's like, I mean, ask if you know somebody who has gouache, or just go buy a single little thing of gouache. Make sure, because gouache, though it's an opaque watercolor, not every color is completely opaque. Some colors are semi-transparent, and so, but find one that's pretty opaque, and then compare it. Take a similar color of watercolor, and then take a piece of wood, and just put the watercolor on top of that wood, and then the gouache. You'll see that the gouache actually has a little bit of that, is actually covering it a little bit more, especially if you do a red. And you'll tell kind of which, and that's a little too dark for that area. It's actually supposed to be white. Oh well. But anyway, and try it, and you'll see that the gouache, I mean, it has this opaque look to it. Some artists don't like to do this, where you have the dark charcoal and you're doing the white charcoal on top. They think it looks like mud. Me, I use it to give it a lighter thing, so it's not quite as white as it would normally be. It's not quite as dark as it would be either. More of a mid kind of gray, or light gray in this case, since I did a lot of white. Moving that thing down. You know, so I'm not trying to be too precise or anything like that. I'm just relaxing. I just want something kind of cutesy. If it comes out kind of cutesy, great. If not, it has a learning experience. I can do it again another time if I want. What type of music do you guys like? I'm asking because I have a song stuck in my head from the producers. That's not right. Let's fix that. little darker color to give it a little bit more roundness. Where's my other one? My way up winding stumps. I should use these things a lot. And use the residue that's on the blending stump to do a little bit over here. That's mostly kind of whitish. That one's not quite as bright as this side. So this side has some really nice white in the ear. Try doing this with watercolor. The white's to color the paper, which if you're doing something like a winter scene, that's actually kind of nice. It's actually fun because the winter scene, you're not going to just leave it all paper. To have some depth in the snow, you need shadow. Well, what's good shadow color if it's white? I mean, gray just makes it look muddy and bleh. But blue, remember, snow reflects, and so it's going to reflect the sky and stuff like that. So you just plan on having a nice blue sky, and then nice blue sky, so you have a lot of blue in the snow and stuff. And just the mixture of the blue and leaving parts white from the paper stuff. It's a nice little look, and it's fun. Let's make it a little bit more precise on this part. These things are a little bit like the tips. You can, I don't know if you can sharpen them or not, but they're good for getting large spaces. But there are lots of little charcoal pencils that you can get from, this is Raffine, or you can get ones from General Charcoal. Those are pretty good. And the pencils give you a little bit more control. You can still keep the tip being, you can make it sharp or you can make it a little bit dull, and it'll still work. And they'll have different softnesses, which helps to give either darker or lighter or black. It's still the same general color, but it's more or less of the charcoal will get into the paper, and you can make it darker or lighter. Go back to these. Wondering which direction the light's coming from? Honestly, I'm not really paying attention to that. If you want to make something realistic, if you want to give it a really, like, you want this to look like it's actually in an environment type thing, you'd want to focus on the lighting and all that stuff. But right now I'm just making it read as 3D, not 3D, but well, read that it's actually has some form to it. Like, it's not just a flat image, but it actually has some form. Which I guess you could say is trying to make it look three-dimensional. That's a better way of saying it than just, because it's not 3D, it's on a piece of paper. Then again, 3D animation is technically still on a 2D screen. if you do the marks in the direction as the fur is growing or going, like pretty much however the fur is, if it's going down this way or if the fur is going like curved, or follow the form of the full animal, but also follow the form of the fur when you have something furry. Seems a little thin, but just roll with it. Might make it a little bit thinner right here. You can also use your eraser to erase out little parts here and there. The white doesn't erase as easily. Even the regular charcoal, if you grind it in like I'm doing right here, like that's really pushing it into the paper, and so then it won't erase as easily. But still, it brings it up. And guess what I got for Christmas? I just bought a bunch more art stuff. Even if I blend the fur, so if I'm making these little marks, even if I blend this, if the marks show at all, and it's following the form, and it's following the way the fur flows, it'll still be helpful. I've done it where I've just been kind of like, I've just been scribbling around and stuff and not really paying attention, just relaxing. But then the end result, you're a little disappointed because it just doesn't look right. Because it's not flowing with it. It's not going with it. One option is to just give a general smooth fill. So like blend this thing all together and then just add little marks here and there afterwards for that. Fur is not my strong point. At least not making it look more real. I can get something I like, but to give it a realistic fill has never been my strong point. That's why I've been practicing doing a lot of animals partly. One thing is to look at the negative space. So in the fur, that's pretty much the shadows, and try to like give the general value meaning light and dark. How light or dark is this area of that cougar? And then adding a little bit of marks where the shadows are, and giving a little bit of a fur texture in there. So you have the value, and then you maybe just do a little bit of this or something. To give just a little bit of a fur kind of texture, which actually kind of works. I may not finish this thing on camera, but we'll see. It just depends. I mean, these things have white, but they're not quite as white as everything else. Probably getting charcoal on my hand, but you can use something called a mull stick. I've talked about it before. Or it's really just a wooden dowel, and you put something on the bottom of it so that you can rest on something without it getting smudging something. I have a wooden dowel with tennis balls on it, and then you just hold it and you can rest your arm on it. It's over there. I'm not going to go grab it, but when you practice drawing enough, you can get something drawn in. Then it's about practicing techniques of like, how do I get this fur to look more of a realistic feel, or how do I do this or that. And then it's different materials, water or different mediums. How do I do this in watercolor or gouache or acrylic or oil paints, that sort of thing. You're seeing the white a lot more than it actually is in real life. The camera really emphasizes the different values. It makes it look really bright. It's not that bright. I wish it was. I like kind of brighter colors or brighter values. The value on the head, some parts are dark, some parts are kind of mid. Some parts are also the white. I think we can go with the idea of giving the value, just giving a general value first, and then adding little things to indicate fur texture. Yeah, I like that. I like how that does. What I found with watercolor is doing different techniques with watercolor with fur, trying to figure out what I liked. I found, I mean, you could do it where you have all the different fur texture, start like where you do a very base wash just to get some color onto the paper, because the paper is white. So unless you have a part that's going to stay white, you want to add some color to it. And so I would do a base wash, so just a little color, and then I'd just start by making marks in the fur, how the fur was flowing, and I would just do that and just keep layering and layering and layering, doing that way. That was tedious, long, and I found that, and I know that you can get a good technique without having to do that. Aaron Blaze likes to do it differently. What I found is I can, and that's some of what I'm doing here, where I can go in and just give a kind of almost a wash, as it were, just a, which is a kind of a solid just general tone. And then I go in afterwards and add a little bit of the fur texture, like I did here in the top, right next to that ear, where I just do little marks in the form where the fur would grow. I'm liking how that looks a bit more than trying to just fill the whole thing up with just fur, fur, fur. Some people do that. They're literally spending 40 to 80 hours on a single image, whether it be colored pencil. If it's oil paints, it's even longer. Though with paints, you can easily paint light over dark, dark over light, so you can go back over it. But like they're doing that stuff like that, and like I don't have the patience for that. I don't like quite spending that much time on this. If somebody's paying me to do it, yes, I would. But nobody's paying me to do this, so I do what suits me. I need this stripper. This part. I don't know. Like he's like, oh, nose is kind of pinkish, reddish. With doing lions and cheetahs and cougars and these things, I noticed that it can vary. Some, then again, it might just be the photo. It might just be, most likely it's probably just more the lighting of the photo. But maybe they do vary that much. I don't know. Let's do just little dots. Just adding a little bit of charcoal into the outside of the eye. And just technically the color or the charcoal around it, I could just use that. Just little dots here because there's some texture there, but you don't really see a strong fur texture there. This thing needs to come out a little bit further. Let's give just a little bit of some charcoal in that area. That's literally just a tiny little bit. Yeah, I'm probably gonna finish it now. I won't finish this part. I'll do what Aaron Blaze does and just leave it. Usually lets it fade out. I might finish it later, I don't know. I'm not going to say for sure that I'm not going to. Anyway, this is Creative Matthew signing off. Have a good day, good week, good year, and adios. Annyeonghaseyo. Goodbye.